pirate costume felt ridiculous hanging in my closet at 3 in the morning. I should have been wearing it, stumbling home with my wife after another one of Richard's legendary Halloween parties. Instead, I stood in our kitchen, still dressed in jeans and a flannel shirt, staring at an empty house that felt colder than the October night outside. My name is Eddie Stone, and I've been married to Alicia for 12 years. 12 years of what I thought was a solid marriage, built on trust, shared dreams, and the kind of comfortable routine that comes with truly knowing someone. I manage rental properties around town, fix what breaks, collect rent from people who'd rather spend their money on anything else. It's honest work, pays the bills, and gives me enough flexibility to be home when Alicia needs me. Or so I thought. The house felt wrong without her laughter echoing from the living room, without her heels clicking across the hardwood floors as she moved from room to room, getting ready for another night out with her fitness instructor friends. Alicia taught yoga and Pilates at the local wellness center, and she looked the part. Toned, flexible, always dressed in those expensive athletic clothes that cost more than most people spend on groceries in a month. I'd begged off the party early, claiming a headache that wasn't entirely fabricated. Richard's parties were always the same: too much wine, too much gossip, too many people trying to prove they were having more fun than everyone else. At 38, I was getting too old for the performance, but Alicia had insisted on staying. "Come on, Eddie, don't be such a bore. It's Halloween. Live a little." She'd been dressed as Catwoman, all curves and confidence in that skin-tight costume that left nothing to the imagination. Every guy at the party had been staring, and she'd loved every second of it. I should have stayed, should have kept an eye on things. But I'd trusted her, the way you trust someone you've shared a bed with for over a decade, someone who knows how you take your coffee and which side of the bed you prefer, and all those little intimacies that make a marriage work. Now, standing in our kitchen with the taste of regret sharp in my mouth, I wondered how long I'd been fooling myself. Her gym bag sat on the counter where she'd left it before the party, unzipped and spilling its contents across the granite surface. Water bottle, protein bars, those expensive workout clothes she was always buying, and her phone. Alicia never left her phone behind. Never. She was one of those people who checked it constantly, scrolling through social media, responding to texts, taking photos of everything she ate or wore or thought was worth sharing with the world. But there it was, screen dark, sitting next to a protein shake that had probably gone bad hours ago. I picked it up, expecting it to be locked, expecting to see nothing but my own reflection in the black screen. But it lit up at my touch. No passcode required, and suddenly I was looking at a conversation that made my stomach drop to somewhere around my ankles. The messages were from someone named Dom. I knew who that was: Dominic Vega, one of the trainers at Alicia's gym, big guy, all muscles and swagger, the kind of man who wore tank tops year-round and called everyone bro without irony. The messages were explicit, not just flirty or suggestive, but graphic, detailed descriptions of what they wanted to do to each other, what they had been doing to each other, photos that left nothing to the imagination, plans for tonight, for after the party, for a future that apparently didn't include me. I scrolled back through weeks of messages, each one a small knife twist in my chest. They'd been planning this for months, meeting at the gym after hours, sneaking around while I was working, laughing about how clueless I was. "Poor Eddie," one message read. "He has no idea. Sometimes I almost feel bad for him." "Don't," came Dom's reply. "He's had his chance. Now it's my turn." My hands were shaking by the time I reached the end of the conversation thread. The last message was from earlier tonight. "After the party. My place. Time to tell him?" I set the phone down carefully, as if it might explode if I handled it too roughly. My reflection stared back at me from the black screen of our expensive refrigerator, a middle-aged man with graying hair and tired eyes, wearing clothes that had seen better days. Next to Dominic's gym-sculpted physique, I probably looked like exactly what I was, a guy who'd gotten comfortable, who'd stopped trying to impress his wife because he'd thought he didn't need to anymore. The front door opened just as the sun was starting to creep over the horizon. I heard Alicia's heels on the hardwood, heard her trying to be quiet, probably thinking I was asleep upstairs. I stayed in the kitchen, leaning against the counter, waiting. She appeared in the doorway, still wearing her Catwoman costume, but it looked different now, wrinkled, disheveled, like she'd put it back on in a hurry. Her hair was messed up, her lipstick smeared, and she was carrying a jacket that definitely didn't belong to her. "Eddie." She jumped when she saw me, one hand flying to her chest in an exaggerated gesture of surprise. "You scared me. What are you doing up?" "Couldn't sleep," I said, keeping my voice level. "Thought I'd make some coffee. Want some?" She hesitated, probably trying to figure out if this was a trap. "Sure, that sounds nice." I turned to the coffee maker, going through the familiar motions while she hovered in the doorway. The silence stretched between us, heavy with things neither of us was ready to say yet. "How was the rest of the party?" I asked, spooning grounds into the filter. "Oh, same as always. Richard got too intoxicated. Susie started drama with someone, the usual." Her voice was too bright, too casual. "I should have left with you. I'm exhausted." "I bet you are." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Something in my tone must have warned her, because when I turned around, she was watching me with narrowed eyes. The coffee maker gurgled to life behind me, filling the silence with its familiar sound. "What's that supposed to mean?" Instead of answering, I picked up her phone and held it out to her. "You forgot this." The color drained from her face as she stared at the device in my hand. She knew it had been unlocked. Knew I'd seen everything. "Eddie, I can explain. Can you?" I set the phone down on the counter between us. "Because I've been trying to figure out how you explain months of planning, months of lying, months of making me feel like I was losing my mind every time I asked why you were working late or going out with friends I'd never met." She straightened up, and I saw the exact moment she decided to stop pretending. Her expression hardened, the guilty look replaced by something colder, more calculating. "You want the truth? Fine. Yes, I've been seeing Dom. Yes, we've been planning this. And yes, I was going to tell you tonight, but you left the party like you always do, like you can't be bothered to participate in anything that might actually be fun. So this is my fault? This is nobody's fault, Eddie. People grow apart. People change. I'm not the same person I was when we got married, and neither are you." "You're right," I said, pouring coffee into 2 mugs, even though I doubted she'd stick around long enough to drink hers. "I'm not the same person. The person I was 12 years ago would have probably begged you to stay, would have asked what I could do to fix this." I handed her the mug and looked her straight in the eyes. "But I'm not that person anymore." She took the coffee but didn't drink it, just held it like a shield between us. "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means I'm done, Alicia. Done pretending this marriage means something to you. Done pretending I don't see the way you look at me like I'm some kind of burden you have to carry around. You want to be with Dom? Go be with Dom." Relief flickered across her face, quickly replaced by suspicion. "Just like that? You're not going to fight for us?" "What us? There is no us. There's you, and there's Dom, and there's me standing here like an idiot holding a cup of coffee at sunrise because my wife was out screwing her personal trainer." She flinched at the bluntness of it, but recovered quickly. "Don't be crude, Eddie. We're both adults here." "You're right. We are adults, which is why I'm sure you'll understand when I tell you that Dom's going to get a very interesting surprise this morning." "What kind of surprise?" I smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. "The kind that lets him know exactly what he's getting himself into." Dominic Vega lived in a rental house on the wrong side of town, the kind of place that looked decent enough from the street but probably had thin walls and neighbors who minded their own business. I knew because I'd driven past it on my way to check on one of my own properties, back when I thought Dom was just Alicia's trainer, just another gym rat with more muscles than brains. Now, as I stood on his front porch at 7 in the morning holding a small cardboard box, I was grateful for that accidental reconnaissance. The box contained Alicia's diamond earrings, the ones I'd given her for our 10th anniversary, and Dom's wallet, which I'd lifted from his jacket pocket during a moment of chaos at the party when someone had spilled wine on the appetizer table. Amazing how easy it was to become invisible when everyone was focused on cleaning up a mess. I'd also helped myself to his gym key, his car keys, and the spare key to his rental house that his landlord had probably told him to keep somewhere safe. People were predictably stupid about hiding spare keys. Under the doormat, inside fake rocks, magnetic boxes stuck to the underside of mailboxes, Dom had gone with the fake rock option, sitting right next to his front steps like a beacon for anyone who knew what to look for. The note I'd written was simple. "She left these at my house. Thought you should know what you're getting into. E." I set the box on his doorstep, rang the doorbell, and walked back to my truck. I didn't need to see his face when he opened the door. I'd hear about his reaction soon enough. While I waited, I took care of Dom's car. Nothing criminal, nothing that couldn't be explained as a series of unfortunate coincidences. 4 flat tires, courtesy of the roofing nails that seemed to have scattered themselves under his wheels during the night. His insurance would cover it eventually, but it would be inconvenient. Expensive. The kind of thing that made a man's day start off on the wrong foot. By the time I got home, Alicia was gone. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. "Staying at Susie's for a few days. We need space to figure this out." Space. As if 12 years of marriage was something that could be figured out over a long weekend with her best friend, the same best friend who'd probably been encouraging this affair from the beginning. I crumpled up the note and tossed it in the trash, then sat down at my computer to do some research. Alicia thought she was smart, thought she'd been careful, but she'd made the same mistake most cheaters make. She'd gotten comfortable, sloppy. She'd used our shared computer to research apartments, to look up divorce lawyers, to transfer money from our joint savings account to a new account I'd never heard of, but she'd forgotten that I was the one who'd set up our home network, who'd configured all our devices, who'd made sure everything synced properly across all our accounts. She'd forgotten that I'd been managing other people's properties and finances for over a decade, that I knew how to trace digital footprints and follow money trails. She'd moved $18,000 over the past 3 months. Small amounts, nothing that would trigger any automatic alerts, but enough to give her a nice little nest egg for her new life with Dom. Money from the account we'd been saving for a down payment on a bigger house. Money we'd set aside for vacations we'd never taken and home improvements we'd never made. I moved it all back, then changed all the passwords on every account we shared. Bank accounts, streaming services, credit cards, insurance policies. Everything. If Alicia wanted a new life, she could build it from scratch. My phone rang just as I was finishing up. The caller ID showed Dom's number. Yeah? You son of a... His voice was shaking with rage. What the hell is wrong with you? I'm sorry, who is this? You know damn well who this is. What kind of sick game are you playing? I'm not playing any games, Dom. I'm just a guy who found out his wife was cheating on him. Thought you should know what kind of person you're getting involved with. What's that supposed to mean? It means those earrings in the box. I gave them to her for our anniversary. She told me she lost them. Turns out she was just saving them for special occasions. Makes a man wonder what else she's been lying about. There was silence on the other end of the line. I could practically hear the wheels turning in his head, trying to figure out if I was bluffing. She loves me, he said finally. I'm sure she does. The same way she loved me when I bought her those earrings. The same way she loved me when she promised to forsake all others and cleave only unto me. Alicia's very good at love, Dom. Very convincing. You're just bitter because you lost her. Did I lose her, or did you just inherit my problems? I hung up before he could respond, then turned my attention to the next phase of my plan. Susie Morrison lived in a condo complex on the other side of town, the kind of place that attracted recently divorced women and men going through midlife crises. She taught yoga classes at the same wellness center where Alicia worked, and the two of them had been inseparable since college. If anyone had been helping Alicia plan her exit strategy, it was Susie. I'd never liked her. She had that fake spiritual thing going on, always talking about chakras and energy and the universe conspiring to give people what they deserved. She was the kind of person who posted inspirational quotes on social media while talking trash about her friends behind their backs. But Susie had one weakness. She was terrible with technology. She used the same password for everything, posted her location constantly on social media, and had never met a cloud storage service she didn't trust with her most personal information. It took me less than an hour to get into her accounts. What I found there was better than I'd hoped. Screenshots of Alicia's text conversations with Dom going back months, photos of the two of them together at restaurants I'd never been to, hotels I'd never heard of, looking at apartments I'd never seen, and best of all, voice recordings of Alicia and Susie planning the whole thing. He'll never see it coming, Alicia's voice said through my computer speakers. Eddie's so trusting, so naive. He thinks everyone is as honest as he is. What about the money? Susie asked. I've been moving it slowly. By the time he figures it out, Dom and I will be long gone. Let him keep the house. It's more than he can afford on his own anyway. Maybe losing it will teach him something about the real world. They laughed together, the sound sharp and cruel in the quiet of my home office. I saved everything to a secure drive, then started planning my next move. Susie taught a hot yoga class every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 9. Popular class, always packed, mostly with women who had more money than sense and thought sweating in a room heated to 90 degrees was somehow spiritual. This Thursday was going to be special. The Serenity Wellness Center smelled like incense and false promises. I'd been there exactly twice in the 12 years Alicia had worked there, once for a Christmas party, once to pick her up when her car wouldn't start. Both times, I'd felt like an intruder in a world of overpriced smoothies and people who use namaste as a greeting. Now, standing in the lobby with a small Bluetooth speaker in my hand, I felt right at home. Susie's Thursday morning class was in full swing. Through the glass doors, I could see 20 women in expensive yoga pants contorting themselves into impossible positions, while Susie walked among them, adjusting poses and speaking in that breathy, pseudo-mystical voice she'd perfected over the years. The desk clerk, a young woman with multiple piercings and a name tag that read Crystal, looked up from her phone as I approached. "Can I help you?" "I'm Eddie Stone, Alicia's husband. She asked me to drop off some music for Susie's class. Said she'd know what it was for." Crystal nodded without really looking at me. "Sure, I can take it to her." Actually, she said it was important that I connect it to the sound system myself, something about the timing being crucial for the meditation portion of the class. That got her attention. Crystal took meditation very seriously, like most people at the wellness center took everything very seriously. "Oh, okay. The system is right over there." She pointed to a control panel near the door to Susie's classroom. "Just don't interrupt the flow of the class, okay? Susie gets really upset when people disrupt the energy." "I'll be very careful about the energy," I assured her. The control panel was simple enough. Just a few buttons and a Bluetooth connection that paired with my speaker within seconds. I could see Susie through the glass, leading the class through what looked like an especially uncomfortable pose, everyone balanced on one foot with their arms stretched toward the ceiling. Perfect timing. I hit play. Susie's voice filled the room, crystal clear through the center's expensive sound system. He'll never see it coming. Eddie's so trusting, so naive. He thinks everyone is as honest as he is. The women in the class looked around in confusion, still holding their poses, but clearly wondering why their instructor's voice was coming from the speakers when she was standing right in front of them. Susie's face went white as she recognized her own words. But I wasn't done yet. Alicia's laughter came next, followed by her voice. "I've been moving it slowly. By the time he figures it out, Dom and I will be long gone. Let him keep the house. It's more than he can afford on his own, anyway. Maybe losing it will teach him something about the real world." Now the women were lowering their arms, looking at each other, looking at Susie, trying to figure out what was happening. "What about the money?" Susie's recorded voice asked. "Turn it off!" the real Susie shouted, lunging toward the control panel. But I was already disconnecting the speaker, already walking toward the exit. "Eddie!" she screamed after me. "You can't do this. This is private property." "Have a great class, Susie," I called back without turning around. "Namaste." Behind me, I could hear the chaos erupting. Women demanding explanations, Susie trying to explain that it wasn't what it sounded like, Crystal asking what was going on. By the time I reached my truck, 3 women had already stormed out of the building, yoga mats tucked under their arms, talking animatedly on their phones. Small towns love gossip, and nothing spreads faster than a scandal involving people everyone thinks they know. My phone was ringing before I'd driven 2 blocks. "Alicia, what did you do?" "Good morning to you too, sweetheart. How's the weather at Susie's place?" "Eddie, I'm serious. Susie just called me crying. She said you played some kind of recording at her yoga class." "Did I? Huh. Must have been a technical malfunction. You know how unreliable technology can be." "This isn't funny. You're destroying people's lives." "Am I? Or am I just letting people hear the truth about who you really are?" There was silence on the other end of the line. When she spoke again, her voice was different, harder, more calculating. "You want to play games, Eddie? Fine, let's play games." She hung up, and I found myself smiling for the first time in days. By noon, the story had spread through town like wildfire. I heard 3 different versions of it while picking up lunch at the deli, each one more elaborate than the last. In one version, I'd hacked the wellness center's entire computer system. In another, I'd hired a private investigator to record Alicia and Susie. The truth was simpler and somehow more satisfying. I'd just been paying attention while everyone else assumed I was too stupid to figure out what was happening right in front of me. But Alicia was right about one thing. She was done playing defense. I came home that afternoon to find the locks changed and a note taped to the front door. "See you in court. A." My own house, and I couldn't get inside. I walked around to the back, checking windows, looking for any way in that wouldn't involve breaking something. That's when I saw him. Dom, sitting on my back deck like he owned the place, drinking what looked like one of my beers. "Afternoon, Eddie." "Dom, making yourself comfortable, I see." "Alicia asked me to keep an eye on things while she packs. Make sure you don't try anything stupid." "Stupid like what?" "Like trying to get into a house you don't have any legal right to enter anymore." I laughed, and the sound seemed to surprise him. "Legal right? Dom, my name is on the deed, my name is on the mortgage, my name is on every utility bill and insurance policy. What legal right do you think you have to be here?" "Alicia's right. The house is in both your names, which means she has just as much right to be here as you do, and she has just as much right to change the locks for her own protection." "Protection from what?" "From a man who's clearly unstable, stalking her friends, playing recordings of private conversations, harassing people at their place of work. He stood up, and I was reminded of just how big he was. Not just tall, but broad. The kind of built that came from years of serious weightlifting. Next to him, I probably looked exactly like what I was. A middle-aged property manager who got his exercise walking upstairs and carrying toolboxes. "Here's how this is going to work," Dom continued. "You're going to get back in your truck and drive away. You're going to let Alicia pack her things in peace. And you're going to start acting like the civilized adult she says you used to be. Or what? Or I'll make sure you do." The threat hung in the air between us. Dom was used to intimidating people, used to being the biggest, strongest guy in the room. He probably thought this would be easy, scare the weak husband, establish dominance, protect his woman. But he'd made the same mistake Alicia had made. He'd underestimated me. "You know what, Dom? You're absolutely right. This is Alicia's house, too, and if she wants to change the locks, that's her prerogative. I'll just go stay at a hotel for a few days while you two figure out your next move." The confusion on his face was almost comical. He'd been expecting a fight, maybe even hoping for one. Instead, I was giving him exactly what he wanted. "Good," he said, but he sounded uncertain. That's the smart thing to do." "I've always been smart, Dom. Sometimes I'm just slow to catch on." I walked back to my truck, leaving him standing on my deck with his beer and his confusion. But I didn't drive to a hotel. Instead, I drove to Phil Morrison's house. Phil was Susie's ex-husband, a software engineer who'd gotten taken to the cleaners in their divorce 3 years ago. He was also one of the few people in town who understood that technology could be a weapon if you knew how to use it. "Eddie Stone," he said when he opened the door. "Heard you've been having some excitement lately." "You could say that. Got a few minutes to talk?" "For the man who just cost my ex-wife half her yoga students, I've got all the time in the world." Phil Morrison's basement looked like mission control for a space launch. Multiple monitors, keyboards, cables running everywhere, and enough computing power to hack into a small government. He'd built it during his marriage to Susie, back when he'd thought having a high-tech man cave would somehow make up for the fact that his wife found him boring. "Drink?" he asked, opening a small refrigerator that sat next to his main workstation. "Sure." He handed me a craft beer, something local and expensive that I'd never heard of. Phil had always been particular about his beer, his coffee, his technology. It was probably one of the reasons Susie had left him for a yoga instructor who talked about chakras and spiritual energy. "So," he said, settling into his chair and swiveling to face me. "I heard some interesting audio this morning. Susie called me, completely hysterical, claiming you'd somehow hacked into her private files." "Did she now?" "She did. Wanted to know if you'd asked me to help you, if I'd given you access to her accounts. I told her the truth, that you'd never asked me for anything, and that I wouldn't help you even if you had." "But," Phil smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. "But I also told her that if someone had hypothetically gained access to her accounts, it wouldn't have been because of any sophisticated hacking. It would have been because she uses the same password for everything, posts her personal information all over social media, and stores sensitive files in cloud accounts that might as well have neon signs advertising their contents. Hypothetically. Hypothetically." He took a sip of his beer. "I also mentioned that if someone had hypothetically accessed those files, they might have found some very interesting information. Information that might be relevant to, say, a divorce proceeding." I leaned forward. "What kind of information?" "Well, hypothetically speaking, they might have found evidence of financial planning between two people who were conspiring to hide assets from a spouse. They might have found communications discussing the best way to manipulate someone into a disadvantageous divorce settlement. They might have found photographs and documents that would be very useful in court." "That does sound useful." "It would be if someone had actually accessed those files, which of course no one did, because that would be illegal." We sat in silence for a moment, drinking our beers and contemplating the hypothetical nature of digital privacy. "You know," Phil said eventually, "Susie cost me a lot of money in our divorce. A lot of money and a lot of dignity. She painted me as this controlling, obsessive techno-nerd who was trying to spy on her and limit her freedom." "Were you?" "Maybe a little, but only because I could see what was coming. I could see her pulling away, spending money we didn't have, talking to lawyers she thought I didn't know about. I tried to protect myself, protect our assets, and she used that against me in court." "I'm sorry." "Don't be. It taught me some valuable lessons about marriage, about trust, and about the importance of documentation." He swiveled back to his computer and started typing. A few seconds later, one of his monitors displayed what looked like a file directory. "Hypothetically," he said, "if someone had accessed certain cloud storage accounts, they might have downloaded the contents to a secure server, and if they were feeling generous, they might share those contents with someone who could make good use of them." "Hypothetically. Hypothetically." He clicked a few more keys, and suddenly I was looking at months of communications between Alicia and Susie. Not just the audio recordings I'd already heard, but text messages, emails, photographs, financial documents. Everything they'd thought was private. Everything they'd used to plan their little conspiracy. This is, I started to say, then stopped. This is exactly what I need. I thought it might be. There's more, though. Your wife has been busy. He opened another folder, this one containing screenshots of Alicia's social media accounts. Not the public ones I knew about, but private accounts under fake names. Accounts where she'd been posting photos of herself with Dom, talking about their plans, complaining about her boring husband who didn't appreciate her. She's been building a narrative, Phil explained, documenting your supposed shortcomings, creating a paper trail that would support her claims in divorce court. Look at this. He clicked on a series of posts from the past few months. In them, Alicia described me as controlling, jealous, financially irresponsible. She claimed I'd been monitoring her communications, restricting her access to money, threatening her friends. None of this is true, I said. I know, but it would be her word against yours, and she's got months of documentation. Very clever, actually. If you hadn't stumbled onto her real communications, this fake narrative might have been very effective in court. Can we prove it's fake? We can do better than that. We can prove she was deliberately creating false evidence while simultaneously planning to defraud you. Look at the timestamps. He pulled up a comparison screen showing Alicia's fake posts next to her real communications with Susie. The dates told the story perfectly. Every time she posted something claiming I was being controlling or suspicious, there was a corresponding message to Susie about how clueless I was, how easy it was to fool me. She was playing both sides, I said. Exactly. Creating evidence of abuse that never happened while bragging to her friend about how easy you were to manipulate. It's actually kind of brilliant in a sociopathic way. My phone buzzed with a text message. Alicia, hope you're enjoying your hotel room. Don't bother coming back tomorrow. I'll be changing the security code too. I showed the message to Phil. She's feeling confident, he observed. She should be. She's been planning this for months, and I've been stumbling around playing catch-up. Maybe. Or maybe she's about to learn that confidence and competence aren't the same thing. He turned back to his keyboard and started typing rapidly. What's your wife's cell phone number? I gave it to him, and he entered it into some kind of database search. Interesting. She's been very active on social media today. Posted 17 times since this morning, all from different locations around town. Lunch at the bistro, shopping at the boutique district, coffee at that new place on Main Street. She's not hiding. She's making sure everyone sees her, sees how happy and free she is. Good for her. It is good for her. Or it would be if she hadn't also been posting from Dom's house for the past 3 hours. And if those posts didn't include photos that clearly show your house in the background, along with some of your personal belongings. I looked at him. She's been posting evidence of her own breaking and entering? She's been posting evidence of a lot of things, including some photos that are going to be very embarrassing when they start making the rounds. What kind of photos? Instead of answering, Phil pulled up Alicia's fake social media account and scrolled to the most recent posts. There were dozens of photos from the past few hours. Alicia and Dom in my kitchen, Alicia wearing my clothes, ironically, Dom drinking my beer and laughing at my book collection. But the most damaging ones were the photos of my personal belongings. My computer, my files, my financial documents, all spread out on my own dining room table while Alicia and Dom went through them like they were shopping at a garage sale. They're looking for something, Phil observed. They're looking for evidence that I've been hiding money, probably. Alicia thinks I'm smarter than I actually am. Are you? I looked at him. Am I what? Smarter than she thinks you are? I considered the question while finishing my beer. 3 days ago, I would have said no. 3 days ago, I was just a guy who managed rental properties and fixed leaky faucets, and thought his biggest problem was getting his wife to remember to put the cap back on the toothpaste. Now I was sitting in my friend's high-tech basement, looking at evidence of a months-long conspiracy to destroy my life, planning my next move in what was turning out to be a very complicated game. I'm learning, I said finally. Good, because your wife just made a big mistake, and if you're smart enough to take advantage of it, you can turn this whole situation around. What kind of mistake? Phil smiled and cracked his knuckles like a pianist preparing for a difficult piece. The kind that's about to make her very famous in all the wrong ways. The Riverside Bar and Grill was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else's business, and if they didn't know it, they made it up. Thursday night was trivia night, which meant the place was packed with people who had strong opinions about everything and weren't shy about sharing them. I'd been coming here for years, usually with Alicia, sometimes alone when I needed to think or just wanted to be around people without having to pretend everything in my life was perfect. Tonight, I was here for a different reason entirely. Darla, the bar manager, was a woman in her 50s who'd seen everything and wasn't impressed by much. She'd been serving drinks and collecting gossip in this town for longer than most people had been living here, and she had the kind of memory that made her dangerous to know and valuable to befriend. "Eddie Stone," she said when I walked up to the bar. "Heard you've been having some excitement lately." "News travels fast." "Honey, in this town, news travels faster than light. What can I get you?" "Whiskey, the good stuff." She poured 2 fingers of something that probably cost more than I usually spent on a bottle, then leaned against the bar like she had all the time in the world. "So," she said, "want to talk about it?" "Not much to talk about. Wife's been cheating, I found out. Now we're getting divorced. Same story as half the people in here." "Maybe, but most people don't handle it the way you've been handling it." "How have I been handling it?" "Smart, methodical, like you're playing chess while everyone else is playing checkers." I took a sip of the whiskey and let it burn away some of the tension in my chest. Maybe I'm just tired of being the guy who gets blindsided by his own life. Maybe. Or maybe you're finally showing people what you're really made of. She moved away to serve another customer, but I could feel her watching me, evaluating me, trying to figure out what I was planning next. Darla had survived 3 divorces and 2 business partnerships that had gone bad. She knew how these things worked. My phone buzzed with a notification from Phil. "Check your email. Show starts in 5 minutes." I opened my email and found a link to a private video stream. The title made me smile. The Alicia and Dom Show. Live from Eddie's house. Phil had somehow tapped into my home security system, the same system I'd installed 2 years ago and completely forgotten about until now. The cameras were motion activated, designed to record anyone who came and went when we weren't home. I'd never bothered to check the footage because I'd never had a reason to. Now I had several reasons. The stream showed my living room in real time. Alicia and Dom were on my couch, going through a box of what looked like financial documents. Dom had his shirt off, showing off the physique that had presumably attracted my wife's attention. Alicia was wearing one of my old college t-shirts and nothing else, her hair messy in a way that suggested they'd been doing more than just looking through paperwork. But the really interesting part was what they were saying. Phil had somehow managed to get audio from my home smart speaker system, and their conversation was coming through crystal clear. "Told you he was hiding money somewhere," Alicia was saying. "Eddie's not as stupid as he looks. He's got to have accounts we don't know about." "What if he doesn't?" Dom asked. "What if what we've seen is all there is?" "Then we'll make sure the divorce settlement reflects his true earning potential. The property management business is worth more than he claims. Those rental properties he manages, he could buy some of them if he wanted to. We just have to prove he's been understating his assets. And if we can't prove it, then we'll create some evidence. It's not that hard to make someone look guilty of financial fraud, especially when they're too trusting to protect themselves properly." I felt something cold settle in my stomach. This wasn't just about an affair anymore. They were planning to frame me for crimes I hadn't committed, destroy my business, take everything I'd worked for over the past 15 years. "You sure about this?" Dom asked. "I mean, the guy's been decent to you. 12 years of marriage, he's never hit you, never cheated on you, pays all the bills. Decent." Alicia spat the word like it tasted bad. "Do you know what it's like being married to someone who's just decent? Someone who never surprises you, never challenges you, never makes you feel like you're living instead of just existing? He seems like a good guy." "Good guys are boring, Dom. Good guys are predictable. Good guys make you feel like you're suffocating in your own life." She stood up and started pacing around my living room, and I could see the restless energy that had been driving her for months, maybe years. I want more than decent. I want passion, excitement, someone who makes me feel alive. I want to travel, to take risks, to do things that matter instead of just managing other people's problems and fixing other people's mistakes. We can do all that. Once this is over, once we get the money, we can go anywhere, do anything. Exactly. But first we have to make sure Eddie can't fight back. We have to make sure he's too busy defending himself to come after us. The stream was being recorded automatically, I realized. Phil wasn't just showing me what they were doing, he was documenting it, creating evidence that would destroy any sympathy Alicia might have garnered in divorce court. But he wasn't done yet. My phone buzzed with another message. "Check Facebook. Your wife just went live." I opened the app and found Alicia's public profile. She was indeed broadcasting live, sitting in my living room, talking to her phone camera like she was hosting her own talk show. "Hi everyone, just wanted to give you all an update on my situation. I know there have been some rumors going around town, and I wanted to set the record straight. She was good at this, I had to admit. Her voice was calm, reasonable, just the right mix of hurt and determined. If I didn't know better, I might have believed her myself. The truth is, my marriage has been in trouble for a long time. Eddie's a good man, but he's also controlling, jealous, and frankly, a little unstable. Over the past few months, his behavior has become increasingly erratic. He's been monitoring my communications, following me around town, harassing my friends. The comments were already starting to appear on the live stream. Mostly supportive, mostly from people who knew Alicia through the wellness center or her social media presence. I've tried to work things out, tried to get him to seek help, but he's refused. Yesterday, he broke into my workplace and played private recordings of conversations he'd illegally obtained. Today, he's been sending threatening messages to my friends and family. More comments, more support, people expressing outrage on her behalf, offering help, condemning my supposed behavior. I want everyone to know that I'm safe. I have people looking out for me, and I'm taking all necessary precautions to protect myself. But I also want people to understand that if you hear stories about me, if you hear accusations or rumors, please consider the source. She was building her narrative in real time, creating a public record of her victimhood that would be very hard to contradict later. I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes, and I take responsibility for my part in the breakdown of my marriage. But I won't be intimidated, and I won't be silenced by someone who thinks he can control me through fear and manipulation. The comments were getting more supportive by the minute. People were sharing the stream, expressing their admiration for her courage, offering to help however they could. Anyway, I just wanted you all to know that I'm okay, and that I'm not going to let this situation define me. I'm moving forward with my life, and I hope Eddie can find the help he needs to move forward with his. She ended the stream, and within minutes it had been shared dozens of times. My phone was already starting to buzz with notifications, people tagging me, demanding explanations, expressing their disappointment in my behavior. In the space of 10 minutes, Alicia had turned herself into the victim and me into the villain, at least in the court of public opinion. But Phil had been recording everything. "Darla," I called, "can I borrow your laptop for a minute?" She slid it across the bar without asking questions. I logged into the streaming service Phil had set up and found the recorded video of Alicia and Dom's conversation from 20 minutes earlier. Then I opened Facebook and started my own live stream. "Hi, everyone. Eddie Stone here. I know a lot of you just watched my wife's video, and I thought you might be interested in seeing what she was doing right before she recorded it." I started playing the video of Alicia and Dom discussing their plans to frame me for financial fraud. The audio was crystal clear, their faces clearly visible, their intentions unmistakable. The comments on my stream started immediately, but they were very different from the ones on Alicia's video. "Oh my God, is this real? She was just lying to all of us? This is insane. Eddie, I'm so sorry, we had no idea." Within minutes, my stream had more viewers than Alicia's. People were sharing it, commenting, expressing their shock and outrage at what they were seeing, but I wasn't done yet. "There's more," I said to the camera. "A lot more." I started playing the audio recordings Phil had recovered from Susie's cloud storage. Months of conversations between Alicia and her best friend, planning the affair, planning the financial manipulation, laughing about how easy it was to fool me. The comments were coming so fast I couldn't read them all. People were tagging Alicia, demanding explanations. Others were apologizing to me, expressing their support, sharing their own stories of being betrayed by people they trusted. By the time I ended the stream, it had been viewed over 3,000 times and shared by half the people in town. My phone was ringing constantly now, but not with angry calls. These were different. Friends offering support, neighbors expressing their outrage on my behalf, even a few people I barely knew reaching out to say they'd been through similar situations and understood what I was going through, but the most satisfying call came from an unknown number. "Eddie?" The voice was shaky, scared. "This is Eddie. It's Dom. We need to talk." "Do we?" Man, I had no idea she was planning all that stuff about framing you. I thought this was just about the marriage being over, about her wanting to be with me instead of you. And now? Now I'm wondering what else she's been lying about. I smiled and finished my whiskey. "That's a very good question, Dom. A very good question indeed." The next morning brought consequences. I woke up in a hotel room that smelled like industrial cleaning products and regret, but my phone was full of messages that made the uncomfortable mattress worth it. Apologies, offers of support, and most importantly, information. It turned out that when you publicly expose someone's lies, people who've been keeping quiet about their own experiences suddenly find their voices. The first message was from Janet, who owned the boutique where Alicia bought her expensive workout clothes. Eddie, I'm so sorry. I had no idea what was really going on. I should tell you, though, Alicia's been buying a lot more than clothes lately. She's been asking about selling jewelry, including some pieces that looked like family heirlooms. I thought it was strange at the time. The second was from Marcus, who worked at the bank. Hey man, saw your video last night. You should know that Alicia came in 3 weeks ago asking about opening a safety deposit box. She seemed nervous, kept looking around like she was worried someone was watching her. But the most interesting message came from someone I didn't know. Mr. Stone, my name is Rebecca Chen. I'm a private investigator, and I think we need to talk. Your wife hired me 6 months ago to investigate you. I have information you're going to want to see. I called Rebecca immediately. Mr. Stone, thank you for calling. I saw your live stream last night, and I realized I needed to reach out. Your wife hired me to find evidence of infidelity, financial impropriety, anything that could be used against you in divorce proceedings. Did you find anything? Nothing. You're probably the most faithful, financially responsible husband I've ever investigated. No secret accounts, no hidden assets, no affairs, no suspicious behavior of any kind. I told Mrs. Stone this repeatedly, but she kept insisting I wasn't looking hard enough. What did you tell her? I told her the truth, that sometimes people are exactly who they appear to be, and that if she wanted to divorce you, she didn't need to fabricate reasons. She fired me after that, said she'd find someone who was willing to do their job properly. Did she find someone else? I don't know for sure, but I heard through professional channels that she'd been asking around. There are investigators who will create evidence if the price is right. Unethical, illegal, but it happens. This explained so much. Alicia's confidence, her certainty that she could destroy me in court, her willingness to take such enormous risks. She'd been planning to present fabricated evidence of my supposed crimes, evidence that would justify taking everything and leaving me with nothing. Ms. Chen, would you be willing to testify to this if it comes to court? Absolutely. What your wife was asking me to do was completely unethical. I've been in this business for 15 years, and I've never had someone so determined to destroy an innocent person. After I hung up with Rebecca, I called Phil. Morning, Eddie. Sleep well? Like a baby. A very angry, vengeful baby. What's the situation at my house? Interesting developments. Your wife and her boyfriend had quite the evening after your live stream went viral. Want to see? Show me. He sent me a link to another video, this one from later the previous night. Alicia and Dom were in my kitchen, and they were not having a good time. You told me he was harmless, Dom was shouting. You said he was too stupid to fight back. He is harmless. This is just temporary embarrassment. People have short memories. Temporary? Alicia, that video has been shared 5,000 times. My boss saw it. My clients saw it. My mother saw it. So what? We stick to the plan. We have evidence that he's been abusing me, that he's been controlling and manipulative. What evidence? Because from what I saw tonight, all the evidence points to us being the bad guys here. We have my testimony. We have months of documentation showing his pattern of behavior. You mean the fake social media posts? The ones that are time-stamped right next to the recordings of you bragging about how easy he was to fool? Dom was smarter than I'd given him credit for. He was also starting to panic, which made him dangerous in a different way than I'd expected. Look, Alicia said, her voice taking on the manipulative tone I'd heard so many times over the years. This is just a setback. We regroup. We adjust our strategy. No. Dom's voice was flat, final. I'm done, Alicia. This whole thing has gotten way out of hand. You can't be done. We're in this together. We were in this together when it was about leaving your boring husband for a better life. We're not in this together when it's about framing an innocent man for crimes he didn't commit. He's not innocent. He's been emotionally abusing me for years. Has he? Because I've been around for months now, and I've seen how he treats you. I've seen how he treats everyone. The man brings you coffee in bed every morning, Alicia. He fixes things around the house without being asked. He pays for everything and never complains about money. If that's abuse, then I don't know what love looks like. There was a long silence in the video. When Alicia spoke again, her voice was different. Colder, more calculating. Fine. If you want out, get out. But don't think you can just walk away clean. I know things about you too, Dom. I have photos, messages, evidence of things that could destroy your life just as easily as Eddie's. Are you threatening me? I'm reminding you that we're all in this together, whether you like it or not. The video ended there, but Phil had attached a note. Dom left about an hour after this was recorded. Haven't seen him since. Your wife spent the rest of the night making phone calls and packing boxes. I was getting dressed when my phone rang. The caller ID showed my home number. Eddie? Alicia's voice was different than it had been in months, smaller, uncertain. What do you want, Alicia? I want to talk. Can you come home, please? Is Dom there? No, we're not together anymore. I see. And you want to talk because your boyfriend abandoned you, or because your plan to frame me for fraud fell apart? Eddie, please. I know you're angry, and you have every right to be, but we need to figure out how to move forward from here. Do we? Because last night you were planning to destroy my life, and this morning you want to have a civilized conversation about our future? Last night I was scared, okay? I was scared and angry, and I said things I didn't mean. You didn't just say things, Alicia. You planned things, for months. You researched divorce lawyers and private investigators and ways to hide money and make me look like a criminal. That's not something you do when you're scared. That's something you do when you're calculating. There was silence on the other end of the line. Come home, Eddie, please. Let's talk about this like adults. I looked around the hotel room, at the generic furniture and the industrial carpet and the view of a parking lot that could have been anywhere in America. Then I thought about my house. My real house, with my books and my tools and my coffee maker that knew exactly how I liked my morning routine. I'll be there in an hour, I said. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Alicia. We're not talking about reconciliation. We're talking about terms. I hung up and called Phil. Change of plans, I said. I'm going home. You sure that's smart? She might be setting you up for something. She might be, but I don't think she has any more moves left to make. What if you're wrong? I looked at myself in the hotel room mirror, a middle-aged man in clothes that had seen better days, with tired eyes and graying hair and the kind of face that people forgot 5 minutes after meeting. But I didn't feel forgettable anymore. I felt like someone who'd been underestimated for so long that he'd started to underestimate himself. Then I guess we'll find out what I'm really made of. My house looked smaller than I remembered, like the events of the past week had somehow compressed it into something more manageable. The locks had been changed back. Alicia's car was in the driveway, but Dom's truck was nowhere to be seen. I sat in my own driveway for a few minutes, looking at the home I'd shared with my wife for 12 years, trying to decide how I felt about walking back into it. 3 days ago, this had been my sanctuary. Now it felt like walking into a negotiation. Alicia opened the door before I could knock. She looked terrible. Her hair was unwashed, her eyes were red from crying, and she was wearing an old sweater that had seen better days. This wasn't the polished, confident woman who'd been planning my destruction. This was someone who'd run out of options. Hi, she said. Hi. Come in, please. The house smelled like coffee and desperation. Alicia had cleaned up. The financial documents that had been scattered across the dining room table were gone. The beer bottles Dom had left around were in the trash. The general air of invasion had been scrubbed away. But she couldn't scrub away what I'd seen, what I knew, what the whole town now knew about who she really was. Sit down, she said, gesturing toward the couch. I made coffee. I'll stand. She nodded like she'd expected that, like she knew she'd lost the right to casual domestic intimacy. Eddie, I want to apologize. For everything. For the affair, for the lying, for the things I said about you. I was angry and hurt, and I made terrible decisions. You were planning to frame me for financial crimes. I was scared. I thought you'd try to leave me with nothing, and I panicked. When have I ever been vindictive, Alicia? In 12 years of marriage. When have I ever been anything but fair with you? She couldn't answer that, because we both knew the truth. I'd always been fair to a fault, generous when I could afford it, supportive of her dreams even when they cost money we didn't have. You're right, she said finally. You've always been fair. More than fair. So why did you assume I'd suddenly become someone else? Because I was projecting. Because I knew what I was planning to do to you, and I assumed you'd do the same thing to me. At least she was being honest now. That was something. Where's Dom? Gone. He left last night after he saw your video. He said he didn't sign up for this level of drama. Smart man. He said he felt sorry for you. Said you deserved better than what I was putting you through. I almost smiled at that. Dom, the muscle-bound personal trainer who'd been sleeping with my wife, had turned out to have more integrity than the woman I'd married. What do you want, Alicia? I want to make this right. I want us to handle the divorce like civilized adults, without lawyers, without drama, without destroying each other. You mean without you going to prison for conspiracy to commit fraud? She flinched. Yes, that too. What are you offering? A clean split. 50-50 on everything. The house, the savings, the retirement accounts. I keep my business, you keep yours. No alimony, no support payments, no ongoing obligations. It was a reasonable offer, more than reasonable considering what she'd been planning to do to me. What about the money you moved to the secret account? I'll transfer it back, all of it. What about the evidence you were planning to fabricate? Destroyed, all of it. What about your fake social media accounts, the ones where you were building a case for emotional abuse? Deleted, everything. I walked over to the window and looked out at the yard I'd spent weekends maintaining, the garden Alicia had planted 3 springs ago and then forgotten about. It was withering now, overtaken by weeds and neglect. Why should I trust you? Because you don't have a choice. Because if this goes to court, it's going to be ugly for both of us. Because even though I made terrible decisions, I'm still the woman you married, and somewhere deep down, you still care about me. She was wrong about that last part. I'd stopped caring about her the moment I'd heard those recordings of her laughing about how easy I was to fool, but she was right about the rest of it. I have conditions, I said. Name them. First, you move out immediately, today. I don't care where you go, but you don't spend another night in this house. Okay. Second, you make a public apology. Not some carefully worded social media post, but a real apology acknowledging that you lied about me, that you fabricated evidence, that everything you said about emotional abuse was false. Eddie, those are my terms. Take them or leave them. She was quiet for a long time, probably calculating whether public humiliation was worth avoiding criminal charges. What's the third condition? There is no third condition. I'm not a vindictive person, Alicia. I never was. I just want my life back. That's it? That's it? She started crying then, the kind of deep, body-shaking sobs that come from finally understanding the magnitude of what you've lost. Not just a marriage, not just a house, but the respect of an entire community, the trust of friends, the possibility of a future that didn't include the consequences of your own choices. I'm sorry, she said through the tears. I'm so sorry, Eddie. You deserved better than this. You deserved better than me. Yes, I said. I did. It wasn't cruel. It was just true, and we both knew it. I left her crying in our living room and went upstairs to pack a bag. I'd stay in the hotel for a few more days while she moved out, then come home to a house that would finally feel like mine again. But first, I had one more call to make. Phil, it's Eddie. I need you to do me one last favor. What's that? I need you to make sure that video of Alicia and Dom planning to frame me gets saved somewhere safe. Multiple copies, multiple locations. You don't trust her to keep her word. I trust her to do whatever's in her best interest. Right now, that means keeping me happy. But 6 months from now, when the embarrassment fades and she starts feeling like the victim again, I want insurance. Smart man. Anything else? Yeah, thank you, for everything. I couldn't have done this without you. Yes, you could have. You just needed to remember what you were capable of. He was right about that. 3 days ago, I'd been a man who thought his biggest problem was a wife who stayed out too late and spent too much money. Now I was someone who'd systematically dismantled a conspiracy designed to destroy his life, using nothing but patience, observation, and the kind of methodical thinking that comes from years of solving other people's problems. I wasn't the same person who'd come home from that Halloween party to find an empty house and an unlocked phone. That person had been trusting, naive, willing to believe the best about people even when the evidence suggested otherwise. This person knew better. This person was ready for whatever came next. I packed my bag, took one last look around the bedroom I'd shared with Alicia for 12 years, and walked out of my old life into whatever was waiting for me on the other side. Behind me, I could still hear her crying, but it sounded distant now, like something happening to someone else, in a story I was no longer part of. The masks had come off, and for the first time in years, I could see clearly. It was time to find out who I really was when nobody was watching, when nobody was judging, when the only person I had to answer to was myself. It was time to start over, and this time I was going to do it right.